Welcome to The Decision from Nashville EO, where you will hear the rest of the story after tough decisions were made by entrepreneurs who faced adversity and lived to tell about it.
Welcome to The Decision. We are a podcast by EO Nashville, and we are entrepreneurs sharing stories of wisdom that we have gained through making decisions and those tough decisions that we all have to make, learning and growing and hopefully getting better through the process. And with me today, as always, my partner in crime and cohort, fellow EO Nashville member, Mr. Robert Hartline. Robert, how are you doing today?
I am doing better than I deserve for sure, Eric. Thank you.
We have a theme for the day. Of course, EO Nashville has, EO in general has core values. Theme today is
Think big, be bold. I could not think of any other guest that should be on our podcast than Matt Cruz, CEO of Big Machine Music City Grand Prix. Who thinks that they can put a race into Nashville has got to be thinking big.
You don't think driving cars 200 miles an hour over the Korean Veterans Bridge is a small idea?
No, not at all. Not at all. No, thank you for joining us today. We first met when I was working with you. You took over our office when I closed my business, right. And which worked out perfectly because I still had a lease. I needed to get out. But when I heard that Nashville was going to have an INDY race, I was like, how? That doesn't even make any sense. Like, how do you even navigate a city like Nashville to even agree to this?
Yeah, well, I mean, Nashville is an event city to start with. So I will start with that. So it's complicated for sure, but it's, Nashville is a pro event. That's what we export. We export entertainment. We put on the biggest fireworks display in America. We put on the second biggest New Year's Eve. So big events are not foreign to Nashville, but it's a collaborative. Nashville's a very rising, rising tide lift all boats city. So the collaboration between public, private, police, fire, works, the property owners around. I mean, Nashville gets it. Now you're always going to have issues, but when I talk to my brethren who put on events in Long Beach, California, or downtown Detroit or Toronto, we have such a home field advantage of Nashville. I mean, Nashville just does it better. It's what they do. They put on big events. So I tell people all the time, I wish that they could sit in a meeting with Metro Police and Metro Fire. We're in the yes business as a city. So, I mean, I wish I could sit there and say, oh my gosh, it's impossible. It's a slug. It's hard. But Nashville, we're in the yes business as a city. And there's some no's, but it's, if the city of Nashville tells you no, they've done everything in their powers to say yes. And so many, not just people, but so many cities, municipalities, companies knows the first five answers. And it's not who we are. And that's not who we are as an event. We're in the yes business. We're in the fun business. And I think Nashville in general, aligns with that. So sure, there's challenges. There's always challenges, but this is a 7-year effort and 4 mayors to get to year 1. But no other city I think could pull it off like Nashville does.
It's crazy learning that you were a place kicker at MTSU.
Wow.
And, do you always just enjoy that pressure? Are you drawn to that?
I don't know. The place kicking was interesting. I wanted to play college football. Grew up in a small town in Lawrenceburg, Tennessee. But then, I just gave the commencement at MTSU and I talked about that. It's just, I've been fortunate to have angels along the path. I mean, I grew up in Lawrenceburg, a tiny town, an hour and a half south of here. Well, by chance, the Vanderbilt football coach that was terminated moved to my small town. Met my grandmother at church and, made some phone calls 6 months later that got me to MTSU. So there's just different things that along the way. I never really felt the pressure of kicking. My son followed in my footsteps, and literally the first game I saw him play in high school, the first thing I did was call and apologize to my parents for putting them through that for years. I just never, it didn't really affect me, but I can see the people around you. It can be a little intense for sure.
So how did you start your entrepreneurial career?
I've never really fit, I just kind of want, same thing with kicking. I didn't really have any, background. I didn't really, I just something I wanted to do, and I sort of self-taught myself. And then in leaving college, there's really nothing out there that kind of fit what I wanted to do. No, I did like most people did when they got out of college. Back in my day, you went to work for an investment company and you smiled and dialed and you tried to sell, insurance and stocks. And I was fortunate enough, and throughout my journey, the angels that I have placed along my way have been very timely and very inspirational. And the gentleman that I went to work with, after about 6 months, he was like, this is not your passion. Go find your passion. And, it's probably easier than firing me, but he sort of, pushed me that direction. And, there's really not a lot of thought put into it. My brother was a race fan. My brother is a year older than me. Like most younger brothers, your older brother's your hero. And I just said, well, if I could work in racing, my brother would think I was cool. And there was no more thought than that. And I just started my journey. And then then I was hooked. I mean, it's the ability to compete. And whether it's in business or whether it's in sports, racing was both. So I was on the business side of it, but there was a competitive, portion at the end. And that's just sort of started my journey down this road. And I always tell people, once you work 3 years in racing, you're unqualified to do anything else. So you better figure out a way to sustain that ride for sure.
And that's a highly competitive business. So how did you get in?
I started my own team. I was driving down the road in Nolensville, Tennessee. There was a car on the side of the road for $1,500. I bought it and I called my brother. I said, "Can you drive a car?" And he's like, "Yeah, surely." And we started a team. It literally was not thought out any more than that. But in the first year, I showed a little bit of, I was pretty good at finding sponsors. A gentleman named Bill Donovan, who is one of my angels to this day, owned a bunch of radio stations in Alabama. He's the first person that said yes. I think he paid me $5,000 to sponsor a car. And it just set me down the road. I was pitching a larger company here locally. The sponsor, I think I was asking for $10,000, and they said, "No, we have much bigger aspirations to go to a higher level." And they said, "Can we hire you to take us to NASCAR?" All my brothers said, "Hey, we're out of the racing business. I've got a real job here in racing." So I just started the path, and it's been great. It's just been great. It allows you, again, to compete. It allows you to, the travel's tough, or it was back in the day doing 40 weeks a year, but it was, I would not take anything for those 20 years.
There's been I guess, Nashville Motor Speedway many years ago opening up. Did you look at that experience that they had with the races in NASCAR, whether it was not as successful as it could have been or whatnot? Did you look at that? Did that create any fear?
No, because we're, again, for what we do today, I just don't. We're more of a cohesive portion of downtown Nashville for a weekend. And it is cars for sure, but we're just an extension of Broadway onto the East Bank, and we race cars at 200 miles an hour. It's a different business model, to be honest with you. We're a downtown music festival with some cars going around at 200 miles an hour. And again, Nashville is in the hospitality business. So the connecting downtown into your footprint, basically. It's a different model. We're all about fan experience. And the one good thing is that we have, even though we're just a 3-day race, we are connected to downtown Nashville, and they take care of guests 365 days a year. So for us to be a collaborative effort with downtown, we allow the professionals in the hospitality business to help us show our guests a great experience. And we have guests from all 50 states, a lot of international tourists, take our race in. But it's just a Nashville effort amongst the hospitality industry to do what we do.
So my first experience with the Big Machine Grand Prix was last year. I've been to a lot of different sporting events before, I'm Predators season ticket holder, went to the Stanley Cup run. So I really didn't know what to expect. And so I got in, started walking toward to meet my friend, and I could hear the cars going by. I was there when the GT race was going on.
Great race.
And I'm getting choked up now thinking about it. I walk up to the fence and I almost cried. It was such an emotional experience. And I thought to myself, I hope nobody's watching me, because I can't explain what's happening to me right now. Now, Robert and I were talking about this earlier. It was just this visceral experience. And so
it's the
I
power.
want to say if you have not been.
No, I have that moment. I mean, you could think
incredible.
The number of moments I have like that. Again, this is a 7-year effort. And in your mind, you see what it's going to be like. You envision race day. You envision the lead up. So it was probably 2 weeks prior to the first race, and I'm coming through downtown. It's 5:30 in the morning. And overnight, they put block on the bridge,
right,
and the fencing up. I struggled to get off the bridge because I was bawling. I was crying like a baby. I was just trying to get this car off the road. I mean, literally, I was almost the first wreck ever on our track.
So you saw that vision in your mind.
Yeah, it was real. I was like, oh, wow.
And to see it
really happening.
Yeah. You know, the idea that, you know, thoughts become things is so real. And when you do visualize this, I mean, you have to create that vision to create the energy you to get through it, because there's a lot of unknowns along the path. You don't know how it's going to pan out.
Yeah. We're still to this day. I mean, you know, we're an 18-acre property that it's funny. So in our conference room, we have a big screen TV. It just rolls, you know, images from the first 2 years. I see something on a daily basis. I didn't know that happened. I mean, I didn't know that person played. I mean, there's so many different things you get caught up in the weekend that you don't realize happened. It was funny. One of the hottest artists in America right now, Jelly Roll, is a Nashville guy. I've known him from Temple Hills Country Club for years. So we, for 2 years, we got to get Jelly Roll in the Grand Prix. We got to get Jelly Roll in the Grand Prix. Never worked out for whatever reason. 2 weeks after our race, I'm in the conference room and the pictures are rolling, and there's Jelly Roll on our stage. I was like, how did I miss that? I said, oh yeah, no, he just drove up to the back gate and said he was supposed to play.
Wow.
And security let him in.
He looks the part.
Now, 18 acres, does that mean do you nearly have kind of unlimited potential what 3 days could turn into?
Well, I mean, yes. However, we're in the fan experience business, and you can also overdo it. And I've seen that happen at different venues. You know, you still have to, blocking and tackling of bathrooms, food and beverage. I mean, the things that add to an experience. So you got to be careful. I mean, just because you can sell a ticket doesn't mean you should sell a ticket. The venue has to. It's a large venue, but we're also building a racetrack through the middle of it. We're building temporary grandstands over a 21-day period. We're building, dozens of private suites over that time frame. So it's just, you got to be careful. I mean, I have seen tracks oversell. I've seen events oversell, and you only get one chance to make a first impression. If that first impression is, God, I had to wait for 30 minutes to go to a restroom, it took me an hour to get a beverage, they're not going to come back.
Yeah.
So I would rather, we're fortunate enough to have such a great ownership group where, we are profit driven, but we're not profit driven. It's, we want to make sure we do it right. So we're fortunate enough to have a great group of people who share the dream, who love Nashville. This whole project starts. I love Nashville. I'm so proud of my hometown. And I wanted to do something to show Nashville to the world. And that was kind of how was no more difficult or complicated than that. And, to sit back after year one to be the most watched IndyCar race in cable TV history, broadcast in 180 countries.
Wow.
That was a pretty cool day.
Yeah. Nashville just keeps on hitting home runs.
Best picture of downtown Nashville,
ever.
Too.
Yeah.
I'd argue ever. No, again, obviously I'm prejudiced, but the last 30 minutes of the first year, the race was running long, but the sun was setting. The cars were going over the bridge into downtown. The reflections were, and I tell Butch Spearon every time, we've never had a better postcard. That showed the city I love to the world in a way that, the way that we would want someone to see our city.
So, Matt, can you take me down to the moment that this idea passed through your mind?
It's a good question. It was, I can put it within about a year. I think it was 2013. I think I just come back from the Long Beach Grand Prix. It was just a great event. And, I just kept going back. Long Beach is, again, a great event, great city, but they're not in the entertainment business. And I just said, Nashville could do this better. Now, that was Carl Dean. So as a Nashvilleian, the first meeting with the mayor, I think, was Carl Dean. So they've been, so it was 4 mayors ago. We're fixing to be on our 5th mayor. So it was a process, but all things for a reason. The city might not have been ready. It was a slow go. The thing that sort of threw gas on the fire was the NHL Stanley Cup, and then the draft the next year. All of a sudden, it's like, okay, this will work. This city is ready for that. And then various things happen. We're ready to go, and then Roger Penske buys IndyCar, and Roger wanted to solidify the Indy 500. He wanted to get the series, settled down before he added another event. So there's various things. Had he not done that, though, our first year would have been 2020, so we'd have probably been canceled with COVID. So there's reasons
for a reason. Yeah. Wow. And so when did you know that it was happening?
The day that first car went over the bridge. I mean, to be honest with you, I mean, seriously, I'd seen so many starts and stops. I had toasted the death of this thing so many times. I mean, when we announced in September of 2020, yeah, you felt pretty good. But then there was, COVID spiked again. There's so many different things. So no, really wrote it down somewhere. I think it was 10:03 on I remember the date. I remember the first car that came over the bridge. I'm like, wow, this is happening. So,
and I know that first day was the most viewed Indy race ever
in cable TV history.
Cable TV, yeah.
It was an incredible day.
And I know that was a tough day because not all the stands were quite ready.
I don't want to talk about that.
But I mean, that's the challenge. This is what the entrepreneurs want to hear. They want to hear that, it's not all with peaches and cream. Like there's
imagine, again, it's hard to go back now, but imagine August of 2021, most of America still in COVID. I mean,
staffing.
It was hard to staff.
Yeah.
I mean, incredibly hard to staff, and hard to staff for something that there's no playbook for what we're doing.
Yeah.
So no, it was, you talk about decision-making under pressure. I had a go, no-go window on Saturday morning because the grandstands were still under construction. And I was like, guys, we'll get past this, but, not having the grandstands open for Sunday for the national broadcast, to have an empty grandstand, driver's right, is the worst visual. And I asked, what is the percentage of them getting it done? And it was 50-50. I was like, why are we having this discussion?
Yes, good.
Why did y'all call me over here for this discussion? Of course we're going.
Got to go for it. Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I think, I don't want to offend anybody, but sometimes when you have non-entrepreneurs making decisions, they don't understand where they came from. They have some people in the room didn't understand that, what we've gone through to get to this point. Of course we're going to go for it. It's crazy. So worked out.
Yeah. So what's the vision of
where does it go? Yeah.
Well, we're probably about a month premature to talk about where it's going to go, but I will tell you this.
You can announce it right here on the EO Nashville podcast.
When is this going to be to be played? Now it's I'm a pretty big dreamer. What will be announced over the next 6 weeks or something? I couldn't have fathomed 3 years ago. So we'll continue. We're obviously not leaving Nashville, but what this race is going to be as we go forward will be just it'll be something only Nashville can do. And we will show more of Nashville to the world than we are currently showing.
We have a lot of entrepreneurs that are, they're salespeople. At the end of the day, we have to sell, right?
I think everybody's a salesperson. They should be.
And part of that with you is you got to go out and get these big sponsors to say yes. Like Big Machine, how hard was that to get a big yes?
Yeah, I mean, nothing's easy. I mean, we're fortunate enough with Big Machine being local. Scott Borchett is a partner in the event. They share the vision. I mean, they share the vision. They share the passion. Scott's incredibly successful in the music world, but he works. I know when successful, he works hard. He outworks us. I mean, we have an every Tuesday meeting year round with Scott, and I mean, you better bring your A game at 2:00 on Tuesday afternoon because he is. So it keeps us on our tails, and we don't have. It's not like we race 3 days a year and take 11 months off. I mean, our Tuesday morning meetings in November are just as intense as a Tuesday afternoon meeting in November. It's just as intense as a July Tuesday afternoon. There are no days off. So it makes you raise the bar. And I think that's the success of his event and hope the success of his company. And, I hope that will continue to be the success of our event. Just work. I mean, back when I ran a NASCAR team, crew chief Todd Gordon. So Todd has gone on to win a couple of championships at the NASCAR level. He would always say, it's just work. I mean, it's just, sure, it's hard. It's, I'd ask him to do something that's probably out of the realm. It may involve, 20 guys staying an extra 2 hours, but it's just work. It's just, there's no shortcut to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there is some luck. There's obviously angels along the way, but it's just work.
What's wild is one of our core values is together we grow. And, you're a perfect example of that because you can't make this event with you
in
your company. It takes so many agencies to put this on, from fire to the police to the city, through codes. You, in fact, make the roads.
Yeah.
I mean, your track is something that Nashvillians drive on every single day.
Yeah, we spend millions of dollars for our track that Nashvillians use every day. I mean, and we're proud of that. I mean, we're a privately funded event. I mean, we spend $20 million to throw an event that brings millions of dollars into our city. And again, and what we have to do to put on this is something that Nashville uses every day. I mean, I may not go play in a football stadium or a baseball stadium or other things, but I drive Korean veterans on a daily basis. I can tell you what those intersections cost to smooth out. I mean, it's, but we're proud of that. We're proud that two things. Obviously, we want to leave the city better than we found it. We've also really brought in a group of partners who want to leave our city better. So we don't brag enough about it, but between our efforts and our partners' efforts around the race, we've donated over $2 million to different philanthropic causes, primarily in Middle Tennessee, just in 2 years. And again, as a Nashvillian, I'm pretty proud of that.
One of the other core values is the thirst for learning. How do you go about learning to be good at this craft of doing an event like this?
I go to a lot of them. I will go to probably, not a dozen, but 6 to 10 every year just to see, and not just racing. I mean, we're in the event business. Is there a better way to do your music? Is there a better way to, people entrust us with about 10 hours of their day. So how do we deliver that experience? And I think it's valuable. And a lot of times it's reassuring that you are doing things right, or you're doing things better. And again, not bragging, but a lot of people have duplicated or tried to duplicate what we do after what we did in 2021. So you've seen some other promoters move their race to a downtown environment. It's rare that a motorsports event now doesn't have a big music lineup. I think we were part of that, and that's something to be proud of for sure.
Yeah.
How do you guys gather data on what has occurred? So you're looking back at 2021, 2022. What sorts of feedback do you get just naturally? Because I'm sure people are talking to you, but what other ways do you go and try and dig and figure out what did we do right? What did we do? What do we need to do better?
Well, the one thing I do, and that's something I really take a lot of joy in, is I do personally communicate with all the season ticket holders. So last year, I think I got about 1,500 emails back and answered them all. I put them in positive and negative categories. I answer the negatives first. But then you work with your stakeholders. I mean, you want to make sure that, from an IndyCar point of view, did we hit all the marks for them? Was the paddock laid out properly? Was the power supply proper? Our vendors. I mean, we are a collaboration with our vendors. We want to make sure, hey, was the schedule clear? Did we sequence things right? Because, we don't get our property until a handful of days. So in a handful of days, we're building suites and private suites and grandstands and stages. And so dozens of different vendors. So someone to air traffic control that, because, vendors in their mind is them, but our ops team's incredible. I mean, I'm blown away. I could walk into Kristen Moser, who's our head of ops right now. I could walk into her office right now and she could probably tell me within 6 inches, the corner of this generator, the wattage, and where. I mean, it's incredible the amount of detail that they do such a great job. And now we have a playbook. We're in year 3 of this now. So you learn from year 1 to year 2, but it's fascinating to watch. I tell people it's fascinating to watch professionals do whatever they do. When you see a professional do, whether it's, make a great meal, perform live music. I mean, watching pros do what, the best, it's pretty fun. Even if you're not into what they do. To watch people who are good in their field do their job is always impressive to me.
I got invited to one of the suites at the first race, and it was 4 of us. And, my impression of the race is just we're going to be sitting there and just watching the cars go around. And it was nothing like that. Yes, we saw some cars go around, but going to the pit crew and just traveling around and seeing the shows. And it was an amazing connection experience because there was plenty of time to have conversation. There's plenty of time. The race isn't going on all the time, but when it's going on, you're not talking. You're watching, right? Because you can hardly hear anything. But there was plenty of time to make that real connection. And I think that's why you probably do the events, is it not?
Yeah.
Is to connect people?
Yeah. And you see now, our fans are, back and forth in and out of downtown throughout the day. So, again, that's really cool. we've got a program this year where our 3-day ticket holders have an armband that gives them fast pass access into the majority of the downtown honky tonks. So now, I mean, there's a true connectivity with downtown, which is a lot of fun.
So about how many people do you expect to come from outside of Nashville to come to the event?
So we're about 55% of our attendees are from what we call like the 5-county region. So we're, unlike probably a soccer game or I'm sorry, more of a football or a hockey game, that's primarily within that 5-county region. We're, the majority of our attendees are from outside of that. Now, it's great. But as you may know, Nashville is one of the most expensive hotel markets in America. So, that becomes a challenge because now, our tolerance or our clientele's tolerance for ticket prices is not, it's driven by, I've also still got to spend X for hotels. So, that is a give and take that we try to, it's something we work around on an annual basis. As we add more hotels into downtown Nashville, that's helping, but that is a challenge for sure.
How do you go about picking the dates?
Well, for the first 3 years, first of all, if you look at the Nashville event calendar, there's not a lot of dates to deal with. So, that was one of the challenges for year one. So I'm trying to thread a needle of the Nashville event calendar. We race around an NFL facility. So I'm working around an NFL calendar. You're working around INDYCAR and their schedule. You're working around NBC and their schedule. So it's a lot. It's a lot. But we won't date equity. So, the first 3 years, we wanted to make sure we're on the same weekend every year. Yeah. And very important for us as an international event, August was key because that really gets you into European travel month. And as we really look to be more of a international event, that was important. Now, year one, COVID, travel restrictions, not a lot of international travel. Year two more, hopefully year three more.
Do you have any insight on how the potential new stadium affects how you do the race if that event that actually gets built? Yeah.
Yes, I have.
I'm sure you have.
That's a great question.
Yes, we have insight. It's, again, without kind of giving away, the new stadium is great for the city of Nashville. It's great for Middle Tennessee. It's great for us in that it's probably allowed us to expand into areas we probably couldn't have got access to years ago. So, it's a win-win for everybody.
Absolutely. Yeah. Tell me this. What would you go back and tell Matt a year before the first race if you had a time machine?
Slow down and enjoy it. I mean, that's things. I'm friends with an entrepreneur who's trying to bring something, almost to scale to East Tennessee, and spent some time with he and his wife a couple of weeks ago. And that's the one thing I gave them. It was like, hey, just make sure you enjoy this. These things don't happen. And yeah, it's going to spin. Like, you're going to feel like it's out of control. But, take it in. This didn't happen without you. This didn't happen without you. It didn't happen without, your wife's sacrifice. So y'all make sure you do enjoy it because you don't get to do it again.
Yeah. I got a chance to meet your son the other day. Okay. And I was like, well, that's kind of special to have your son working with you on this. It's got to feel good to be able to spend time with him and do something like this big together.
Yeah, it is. And he's probably unlike most. I mean, he does understand this didn't happen overnight. And he understands sacrifice. He understands, it probably affected, there are probably things he was able to do during his high school and college years because of, the amount of effort and to be honest with you, money we were putting in to try to make this happen. So
there's a lot of family sacrifice.
He may never admit that, but no, I'm sure he saw it.
And was there a time where you had, I guess you had made a lot of investment before it was could possibly happen?
Oh, for sure. No, it was, again, as I said this in my MTSU speech a couple of weeks ago, though, again, and I preface this like my story is my story. It's by no means to be a roadmap for others, but at some point in time when you get past the point of no return, it's to past the point of no return. You cross a bridge, you can't go back. So as many times as you want to stop, I've pulled out of. I don't work in NASCAR anymore. I'm the only direction is forward at that point in time. It's not the right answer, but it was the right one for me, I guess.
Yeah. Anything that you do is a daily habit or a ritual that keeps you in the mindset that it will happen and something to fend off that negative talk in your mind that says maybe you can't do it or it won't happen, or like some of that, we have to play this game with our minds sometimes. Do you have anything that you do?
Well, and this goes into things I'm not sharing, but yeah, I mean, I walk where we're going to be racing in the future. I walk it every morning, not every morning, but 4 or 5 mornings, a week. And it's, before 6 o'clock in the morning. I just, I always say, if you see it, if you just can keep telling yourself over and over it's going to work, at some point in time, you convince yourself and it becomes infectious and I think other people buy into that. So that's kind of my day to day right now as I, obviously trying to keep my foot into 23 and making 23 can be the greatest event, we can be, but also, 24 is here before you know it. So, but yeah, that's kind of what keeps me.
I think all your summer vacation's totally off, isn't it?
Yeah. And I'm not, I'm not a big vacation guy. I mean, what do you do when you go on vacation? You worry about work. I'm trying to do better. I've committed to take some time off after this year. But it's just hard. I mean, it's just, and again, I go back. This is my story. This is what makes me tick. Probably not the best thing, but it's what I enjoy doing. I don't really have any hobbies. I mean, I like watching sports. I like watching my daughter's a great, competitive, junior golfer. I enjoy that, but I like working. I like dreaming. I like, I think of myself as a pretty creative person. So I do like that aspect, but that's what sort of drives me.
Do you have any dreams that are stuck in the mind that are looking for an expression? The next thing for Matt?
Yeah. I mean, when I say next, I mean, I know what my next 5 years look like for sure. But in the back of my mind, I don't want to be 70 and never have done something on a global scale. I mean, I love Nashville, but if I can parlay this into something in more of an international level, I think I'd want to do that.
Oh, wow.
It's just, my travel's been limited, and I feel like that I am someone that likes to experience things and to, I don't want to be my parents. I don't want to be, never, seen the world. And I want to make sure that I, can use this as a springboard into maybe something else down the road. I mean, I've got my dreams for the next 3 or 4 years are pretty aggressive right now. So I want to make sure we accomplish those. Yeah. But as I tell people, the 21 Grand Prix was such accumulation of 7 years of sacrifice and work. And it was an incredible day. The next day was probably the worst day of my life. And it's like, you caught something. I was like, what's next? I mean, it was like, morning, I was like, wow, this is okay. What are we going to do now? So.
Well, I heard one morning you had to wake up and go clean a parking lot.
How'd you hear that story? That was a funny story. So it was the day after the first Grand Prix. And I don't know where it came from, but I had a bus like in our operations area. So I'd been downtown for a week or so at this point in time. So Tuesday or so of race week, I moved everything I had into this bus. So my family was standing downtown. So each night into music, I'd go by the bus, I'd put on shorts and T-shirt, and we'd stay at a hotel downtown. So Sunday night after the race, same thing. And I had no idea the vendor, who even supplied this. So Sunday morning, Sunday night after the inaugural Grand Prix, go by the bus, throw my stuff in there, throw my wallet, everything, except my phone. I'm flip-flops, T-shirt, and basically gym shorts. Walk in, stay with my family at the Hilton, I guess. Next morning, my daughter had a golf tournament in East Tennessee, so they got up and left like at 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. So I'm like, I'm up. Time to go back to the track. And I remember walking over the bridge. Again, no wallet, no anything. And the ops come, everything's already cleaned out. Bus. I was like, what? So I'm like, I didn't know who to ask the question. So it was like a day till I figured out where, everything I owned was. My car keys were in there.
Oh my gosh.
It was so funny. But it was fun. So I also, as I'm walking down, I start getting a call from one of the tenants that was close to the track. And again, as you learn, the cleaning plan did not encompass their property. So their property was just pretty trashy because there'd been thousands of people in their parking lot. So I walk over and just start grabbing people that are different parts of the property. He's like, hey, come help me clean this lot. So we're picking up trash. It's hot. I'm in flip-flops, quasi underwear-ish, a T-shirt. And I was like, this is the glamorous side of racing right here.
Hey, you're doing.
So about that time, the morning show called. I forgot I had a radio interview scheduled. They said, man, what's it got to feel like the morning after? I was like, you want the true story? I was like, I'm knee deep in trash right now. I have no idea where my car is. I have no idea where my worldly belongings are gone. But
now you know what it feels like to be a tourist after drinking all night.
Yeah, it was fun morning.
Well, those are the stories that we've all got as entrepreneurs.
Oh, yeah.
You know, you're the last line of defense, and there are things that have to be done.
For sure.
You're taking out the trash, and those, you know, and people see the big stuff, right? They see the big victories, and very often that's the impression that people have of entrepreneurs is
it's just the trophies.
They see the wins.
Now, I know you bring on a workforce that is seasonal, you know, around the race.
To some degree. We still have a pretty aggressive year-round crew, but yeah.
And a lot of these are younger people starting their career out, and you're throwing them to the wolves of, you know, hey, get us some sponsors, you know, get some tickets sold, and what do you feel like is like your obligation as, I guess, a leader to help this younger generation to see how to do it? I mean, do you feel in some regard a level of responsibility to kind of bring that next generation up?
Yeah, I think first and foremost, it's important that they see that there's no task below anybody or above anybody. We take an all hands on deck approach to anything. So I think that's important to see that, hey, you know, if you think there's, you know, if you think there is lanes or if there's a box, there's just not. When I spoke at MTSU a couple of weeks ago, one of the themes was, and again, these are graduates fixing to start their life, and I know they've all got plans, and they've got, you know, they think they know what their path is, and I hope that most of them follow, you know, make it down their path. But as I told them, you know, my hero in the 80s was Mike Tyson, and Mike Tyson said everybody's got plans, or they get punched in the face.
Yep.
And you're going to get punched in the face. You know, I don't know that Dr. McPhee thought that was the most positive message I could have given the young students, but again, it's how you react once you get punched in the face. And I don't do a great job of showing people the struggles. I mean, I'm probably too much like a duck on water that, you know, people don't see your legs 1,000 miles under because you don't want to show panic. I'm trying to do a better job of making sure people say, you know, this just didn't happen. You know, you know, this is how the sausage was made, but it's still hard. I mean, I still want people to think that, you know, this is, well, it's fine. I mean, because I'm wired to handle chaos. Some people really don't. So, I mean, I'm trying to do a better job. I'm trying to do a better job of exposing people to what they can, and also to want to make sure our people understand that, you know, like most people coming out of college, they probably have friends that, you know, can find a safe route. But there's a crossover point. People who follow passion and follow what they love. There's a crossover point where first of all, because you're working something you love, you're going to be more successful. But your friend who went down that safe path, they're going to make more than you the first 10 or 15 years. But there's going to be a crossover point at 35, 40, whatever it is, that makes it worth that survival. If this is what you want to do, that makes it worth that, you know, that not having that safety net for those first few years.
And so what kind of tool or resource or strategy that you do when you're interviewing someone to work for your team that you know is the right fit? Or what is a tell that you see in them that they have the right level of tenacity? Or what is it that really makes that stand out for you to say to hire them?
I think it starts with, I mean, obviously, I mean, someone's past is important. I don't know. It's a great question. And I don't know that I'm always the best at that, but I mean, there's gut for sure. But I think passion is hard to hide. And if I've got passion, I think I can train the rest. If I got low energy, no passion, it's going to be hard. Yeah. And that made me more qualified, but you just can't, you know, I'd rather pull somebody back than push them. I mean, and having, you know, and maybe not be the best at spotting passion, but I can see passion. I think we can all see passion. And, you know, passion, as long as we can, if you've got someone that's passionate, I think it's now your responsibility to make sure you give them the tools and give them the guardrails to pull out of them what their passion should allow them to accomplish.
So when something doesn't go well, you know, whether at the event, whether it's a planning situation, how do you deal with, let's say a team member made a mistake? How do you go about having some allowance for a mistake? What happens?
I try my best to kind of not take the blame, but to shoulder as much as I humanly can. Because I think, I take the very old school approach that as the CEO of something, this is on you. I mean, yeah, people have to do their job. And that's not it. But if someone's mistake wasn't out of, if it wasn't intentional, if they didn't have their best interest, I it's just the way I'm wired. I mean, it's probably more generational. I mean, I think it's the captain's job to go down with the ship. I think it's I think as a leader, that's your responsibility. Now, obviously, if it's malice or if it's just incompetence, it's still your fault because you're the one that hired them.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
how much leeway are you going to give a team member to make a mistake?
I'm pretty, I think all cases are different, but I think if it's truly because they weren't trained properly, or if they truly didn't, I'm horrible at I see things in my mind. I see things in my head. I'm not the best at verbalizing my expectations. So if it's on me, it's on me.
Yeah.
But if it's them, no, I can be a little curse at times, I guess.
Yeah.
And then at a point in time, I mean, you've got to push people to understand this may not be for you. Again, we're in the fun business. We don't really have a lot of that, to be honest with you.
Yeah.
I want people to reflect. I want them, if we're not having fun and we're not portraying fun, it comes through to our consumer, and we're trying to sell them fun. Well, if we're having fun, I mean, that's hard.
Yeah.
Hard to fake that one. So.
Yeah. Well, awesome, Matt. Thanks for joining us today. Thanks, Eric, for joining me on this journey with Matt Cruz from Big Machine Music City Grand Prix with us today. Thinking big and being bold. And I think that I really want that to resonate with our entrepreneurs here in Nashville, because that is what we are here for. EO Nashville is for entrepreneurs to have a place to be with 345 members in a community to connect with on a monthly basis in what's called a forum. So if you've not heard about EO Nashville, you can visit eonashville.com and learn more about how you can be part of the community and be part of this group of Nashvillians making things happen in our city. Thanks again, Matt. And thank you, everyone. Have a wonderful rest of the week.
Thanks for listening to the Decision Podcast by Nashville EO. We'll see you again next time, and be sure to click subscribe to get future episodes.